Hey CDA, and welcome back to Astro Colony. Last time around I showed you the start of the game, and now it's time to add in some real automation. In order to actually do that, we are going to need the automated asteroid catcher, and in order to unlock this recipe, we are going to need some of these next level science. And in order to get that, we have already unlocked engineering, which is going to give us the engineering science. Very original, but most importantly, it's going to have to be produced by the laboratory. Yes, I'm a big Dexter's fan. Dexter's laboratory. Anyway, let's go build one of those. Okay, this thing is pretty massive, but we can actually set it down over here. And let's see, what do we need for that? I think it's something to do with iron and copper, most likely. Can I click this? Oh, E. Never mind. I'm still getting used to the different controls compared to satisfactory. Anyway, copper bar, iron bars will get us some engineering science. Considering we are producing those right next door, all we need to do is put in a belt to make that happen. There we go, very nice and tidy, and as you can see I have a filter set up over here. Let's see if I can turn this off for a moment. How do I turn this off? Oh, there we go. So a filter set up over here, and that's just going to allow through the copper bar and iron bars. And then we have a pusher over here to push the iron bars and copper bars onto the belt that goes into this. And why is this not working? Oh, because I didn't actually power it yet. There we go, that's better. And I like how this game is actually deceptively easy. I mean, sure, it's not the most complicated thing ever we've built so far, but actually thinking a little bit about the layout and the constricted space we have, because remember, so far we can't actually increase our platform size. And with the belt controls being as they are, you do get things like these pusher, splitters, filters early on. But those are not the same as, for example, the smart splitters in Satisfactory. So you do have to think what goes on which belt, what goes where, a little bit. And I've done this before when it was still in beta. So I'm a little bit advantaged compared to someone who would be playing this brand new. But still, yeah, I like it. It feels like we're really making progress. So, just with making sure we were actually drawing in some more resources, we now have the technology to unlock this. I think we do, at least. Why won't this unlock? Oh, apparently we need construction first. Well, I suppose we can get that too. And then, of course, we have one too few engineering science to unlock this. Now, with the final research in place, we are probably going to have to stop this storage container from completely emptying all the time. So let's put something else on the filter and then remove the other stuff from the filter. If you don't actually put anything in the filter, it'll just let everything through. That's the default mode. So just setting anything else in here will block that. And now everything should be staying in this storage container. That's nice. So we'll not get any further research, but we do get building materials. And we're going to need that, because in order to build these automated asteroid catchers, we are going to need quite a lot of iron. So let's put that on the hotbar. And we're going to have to hop in these things a couple of times to get some more iron production. And if we're really impatient, we can always go out and mine some resources by hand, and hopefully that will be the last time we do that. Okay, look at my awesome auto-gathering asteroid catchers at work. These things are now randomly picking an asteroid in range, drawing it in, processing them automatically, and then putting everything on the belt. So we don't have to hop in here anymore. I haven't really showed you doing that because it's not that interesting, but I've been jumping in and out of these things as I have been building everything else. And the reason for that is very simple. We actually do need a lot of resources for stuff now. So each one of these asteroid catchers actually needs 18 iron in total, at least 6 bars and then 12 plates. And if you want to handcraft all of that stuff, it's going to take you quite a while. So I was jumping in and out of these things in order to make sure we were getting some asteroids being drawn in manually. And now, of course, that's automated. So we basically have an infinite supply of resources. However, time is still a thing. So if you want to make sure you don't stand around waiting for your resources to gather, you will need to ramp up your production, but you also need to make sure you are auto-crafting as much as you can. For the simple reason that the hand recipes actually cost quite a lot of time. So if you look at the recipe for iron plates, for example, it takes 8 seconds just to make one. So if you need to make 12 of these by hand, it's going to take you about 1.5 minutes, even if you already have all the base resources required. So that's not necessarily what you want to sit through and wait for, so let's scale things up a little bit. Okay, so scaling things up actually does mean scaling things up rapidly in this game. So what are we going to need? Well, we're going to need one of these, what is this called? Constructors. You're getting annoyed, little robot. So one of these constructors that is going to make us plates automatically. Now you can see we're actually getting twice as many plates at half the speed, or twice the speed actually, half the duration of actually making 1 times this recipe. So this is going to hugely improve the amount of iron plates we're going to get and the rate at which we're getting them, as well as other plates that we don't necessarily have a use for just yet, but we're going to need them at some point. What else do we have? We have this building over here, which is the manufacturer, which makes those plates into wires and copper wire. And these 2 items are very basic. We can easily make them by hand, but we don't want to have to go around collecting all of those ores all the time. So we want to make sure that at least some of these plates are going to go into the manufacturer and make us wires. Then, last but not least, we have another smelter over here, which is going to smelt some of the plates into iron rods, because we are going to need those for certain buildings. One of those buildings being the where is it? Let's see. Utilities? No. Mining? No. Farming? No. Of course, it's going to be in the last place I look. Oh, it's actually in the devices. We want a base warehouse. Now we're going to need some of these copper plates as well as these iron rods for that. And what this is going to do, it's going to make us a place where we can store our resources, but you can actually directly use the resources if they're in your warehouse. So it's going to be not trivial, but very useful to make sure we get a steady supply of those resources going into the warehouse, so we don't have to run around picking them up all the time. So let's see if we can make that happen. Now, I just made a very simple belt straight into this facility, and there's actually a couple of things that's worth noting if you haven't played this game yet, that make your life a lot easier if you know about them. So, for example, you can actually have resources going into a building that it can't use. And why is that important? Well, right now I have no filters on this belt whatsoever. So as you can see, it just dumped all of the iron bars on it. It's now going to dump the copper bars, and then it's going to go with the gold bars. But actually I also want to make sure we have coal on this specific line, because we need the coal to go over here, and we just want to make sure we are not using too many belts in a row, because that will just turn into spaghetti really fast. Now, in order to make that happen, what we need to do is we're going to need to remove this pusher. We are going to have to replace that with another splitter. You will probably already see it happen as soon as I place this, because you just saw some copper going in there. That will not happen again as soon as I set a filter on this. As you can see, there's now copper in my carbon reactor. It doesn't know what to do with that. I'm going to just drag it out, and nothing gets lost, but it also doesn't get stuck, so you don't have this belt backing up if you're messing around with how you want to arrange things. Well, the same holds here, so if we have any coal getting through, it will only be a minimal amount, by the way, because this first splitter splits it 50-50, the same does that again, and this one does that again. So we will only have 1/2, 1/4, 1/8. So 1/8 of the coal will actually reach this part of the belt. But once it does, what we want it to do, we want a pusher on here. That is going to push the coal straight on here, but we'll let everything else go through. And now you just saw some iron ore getting pushed here because there wasn't a filter on it yet. And once again, that should just go straight into here, so we can pick it back up and put it back into where it's supposed to go, namely the smelter over here. Now, of course, you don't want to do this manually too often, but just good to know that your belts won't back up and get completely stuck if the wrong resource sometimes gets on there while you're building it. Oh man, look at all those resources coming into our warehouse. So in this warehouse, we can actually store a lot of different items. As you can see, we have everything that we are producing already in here, at least to some extent. I just built this, so it's not quite full yet. I like the visuals of this. You can actually see how full it is getting. You can actually see the items being in here as well, so all the different types. And yeah, so the way I've set this up now is very straightforward. We actually have another line of coal burners over here, which, considering much coal these are going to require. We're probably going to have to set up some more of these catchers as well. And I actually forgot that in the meanwhile we unlocked the first building plate, so we can actually start expanding our platform. So it is, where was it? Under construction. So we have a floor, a black floor in here, and that will actually allow us to extend our platform just a little bit. So as you can see, we have now this little platform sticking out here ×3, and each of those has a new coal burner on it, which in theory should be able to supply our coal needs or our power needs. Now, because of how the splitting works, it's probably best if we can basically drag this off, then split these stacks a little bit. Let's just split all of this. The splitting is actually really easy in this game as well. And then just work our way back and make sure we put some of this in here and make sure we actually get our power up and running. Now, unlike Satisfactory, you do not actually need to fully power all your facilities. So if you check any facility, it will say the efficiency. Currently it's at 100% because we are producing 50 power and only need 32. But if you drop below this, the efficiency will just go down accordingly. So let's say you are requiring twice as much power as you're actually consuming, then all your buildings will start producing at 50% efficiency. Of course, that's not quite optimal, so you want to fix that as soon as possible, but at least everything won't just instantly shut down once you get over a certain threshold of power. Now, in terms of what else is happening, we are splitting off the bars over here because we also need some bars for construction. We also want to make sure we get bars in order to make these plates over here. Then the plates are coming out on the back over here. Once again, we are splitting off the plates into half of them going into wiring and the other half going straight on because we want plates for building, but we also want wiring. Honestly, you don't need that much wiring, so it might be worth just turning this off at some point and make sure you get all the plates, but then again, it's infinite resources, so if you're patient enough, it doesn't really matter. Then over here we are once again splitting off the plates because we want these plates to get turned into rods as well. And then the remaining plates will go on this belt. The rods coming out of this smelting facility actually go on this belt as well. And then everything goes into here, which is, well, everything that we have in terms of wiring and plates left over. We also have the remainder of the ingots going on this belt that are left over and go in here. So as you can see, we are getting a pretty nice stockpile of building materials, and remember, we can access these building materials when we're building from anywhere in the game, so we will never have to come back and pick these up. These are now basically considered part of our inventory. Now, zooming out a little bit, you can really see our factory starting to come together. We have automated catchers in the back, and then we have a lot of belts, so we have a lot of power set up already. We have 5 different construction facilities making different items already as well. And then we have everything stored in a warehouse, so it's easy to reach. And if you're thinking, well, this looks pretty straightforward, this is like Satisfactory but on easy mode, well, to some extent it is. It's definitely less of a grand skill for now than Satisfactory. You don't have that giant world to explore. But on the same hand, it is definitely very satisfying to build all of this, and we haven't even scratched the beginning of the game just yet. I mean, sure, we have the asteroid catching automated now, but we don't have any robots transporting anything just yet. We haven't done anything with water just yet, and making these oxygen domes and stuff like that. We can actually build engines on our platform to move it around and dock with stuff. And what are we going to dock with, you ask? Well, let's see. See these giant planetoids? Well, these all have resources on them as well, and these are different resources than you will find in the actual asteroids. So in order to progress further, we're going to have to fly around with our actual little space station over here and connect it to those planetoids and start mining and drilling and stuff like that. And when we're done with that, or when we have that up and running, I should say, well, we are probably ready to call the astronauts and bring some humans on our platform as well and put them to work. So we have plenty of stuff to do. If you think this is interesting, let me know in the comments. If you've played this game, actually let me know in the comments as well. I'm kind of wondering how much of an overlap we have between Astro Colony, difficult word, and Satisfactory and Isosphere program. So make sure you comment on that, and if you like this game, don't worry, we have more coming up. So it'll probably take a little while for me to get to the next episode because my main focus is still the Satisfactory playthrough, but I definitely want to see how much further we can take this game. I do have to say, it has improved a lot since it was in beta, which shouldn't be surprising considering it's now out in early access and it's supposed to be a little bit more refined, but the gameplay is so smooth. The progress has been smoothed out a lot. That was my main objection when I was playing it the first time around. Sometimes you kind of got stuck in terms of progress. Yeah, there's just so much love going into these games. And speaking of which, you can actually nominate this game on Steam for the Labor of Love reward currently. And I think this is a very good example of a game that deserves that, considering how small the development team is and how much effort has been put into this game. So consider doing that. I'm not getting paid to say this or anything like that. I just honestly think this is a game that definitely qualifies for that award. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will catch you in the next one.